from unwanted agencies. They will protect you from evil and all the things that go on when you sleep. So when you develop, you are very open to unwanted agencies. And I've found that they can influence your mind in different ways.
Interesting. Yeah, a lot of people, we're going to have to talk a little bit more about that in the next show because that's a very interesting topic. And I noticed that a lot of people, depending on where they're coming from spiritually, it depends on which religion, or if you will, or which spiritual path they're coming from. They have different views on that. And I know there's a lot of people right
Yeah.
now who are out there who are teaching mediumship and or mediums who don't believe in the different realms
Mm,
and don't believe in different spirits. But I think that would make a great topic for our next show.
I think so.
But so we're running out of time. But so what? Let's give our tip of the week now, Billy. What would you tell someone? You know, you've got somebody who's just now starting to learn this, and they feel they might have, you know, the qualities of a medium. They or maybe they saw dead people as a child, and they've had experiences, and they do feel drawn to it. What advice would you give to them?
Well, first of all, I would say find a group that's run by a respectable, knowledgeable person, somebody who comes highly recommended. And if that's not possible, then meditation is paramount to learn to focus the mind, to relax and focus using the flame of a candle, as I said earlier on, and to breathe correctly. That's important. Or if you can only find somebody you feel comfortable with, and a mediumistically inclined person like yourself, and be able to sit with them and practice meditation. That's important, to trust people, because you can't trust everybody. That's a certainty.
Yeah, that's for sure. And I tell you, you know, you talk about the Hindus and everything. One of the things
Yeah.
that helped me tremendously while I was developing my mediumship was also to develop my yoga practice. And not just, you know, the asanas, not just the positioning, you know,
Yeah.
but also the pranayama, the breathing, and the mudras, you know, the hands, you know,
Yeah.
the different types of positioning of the hands and so forth. But I've actually had spiritual experiences and mediumistic experiences during a yoga meditation in class. Have something come through and give somebody a message because it just opens that up. So that's just another way that you can also help train yourself to be able to quiet that mind.
Exactly. And also, if you ascertain your normal heartbeat by placing your fingers on your pulse, and because everybody's heartbeat is different, if you count with each heartbeat up to six, and once you've got your rhythm in your brain, you sit quietly with your hands on your lap, with your eyes closed, and you breathe in, counting six pulse units. You hold it for the count of three. You exhale for six, hold it for three, in for six, hold it for three, and so on and so forth. That quiet makes the mind quiet, and it also helps to make you more focused. And if you can't sleep, that will ensure you have a good night's sleep. That's,
That's important too. Yeah, that's definitely important too. Because if you don't have a good night's sleep, then when you're trying to meditate, you'll start falling asleep during
exactly.
meditation.
That's the problem, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Always, always, always. And just remember, guys, if you're going to become a medium, you know, to me, if, you know, I happened to already be doing the paranormal for many, many years before I really started, you know, getting into other forms of mediumship, like learning trance and that sort of thing. But you know, if you're just budding, just coming out into that mediumistic realm, yeah, I would recommend just stick with learning your mediumship and not to be confusing the two by trying to open up while you're on a paranormal investigation. That would just be my recommendation. Because when I go into a lot of these haunted places, I close myself off. I mean, people are always asking me, well, what are you seeing now? And it's like, if I kept it open all the time in this, under these circumstances, my head would blow up. I don't recommend walking around all the time just completely open to whatever's out there.
That's the
What do you
problem.
say?
Yeah, that's a good point you've made, because a lot of people are tuning in all the time. Even in the bank or the cake shop, they're tuning into the person standing in front of them. And it can have an effect on your brain eventually. A lot of the older mediums became detached from reality. A lot of them lost their minds. My auntie, who was famous, she became detached from reality. She was loopy, loopy as a piece of cake gone off, because she was tuning in all the time. She claimed John Wesley was one of her helpers. Then she'd follow that with some astounding information. But you need to discipline yourself, as you've just said. Don't tune in all the time. When you're in a haunted location, just do it then. And when you've finished, it's finished. Because that's why we use the Lord's Prayer in a church service, because it's an affirmation, it's a declaration to the spirit world that it's over. We don't need any communication after that, and everything closes down. And a lot of people don't understand that.
No, that's very important because you're opening. Well, anytime you're doing this and you're opening it up, you're opening up portals. And a lot of people, that's also another trendy thing. I don't know about it over where you are in the UK, but I know
Yeah.
here in America, that's the big thing. They want to open those portals. One thing I always tell people, it's like, well, I think it was, Helen Duncan that that said, if you're going to open a door, you better know what is behind the door, and you better know how to shut it.
Exactly.
Because if you don't, you can get yourself in trouble, and you don't want to do that.
So my auntie Louise sat with Helen Duncan. She sat with
Did
a
she
lot of,
really?
yeah, she was very knowledgeable, and I learned a lot from her. She passed away about 1989, I think it was. But she's the one who was a policewoman. And,
Oh,
and she,
wow.
she had some brilliant stories. And as my mother used to say to me, you've got to pick what makes sense to you. It's like that with anybody, because my Auntie Lou would come out with a fantastic yarn about something that occurred many years ago. And I think, wow, that doesn't sound real to me. But even the fantastic stories she told were genuine. And I found it very difficult to believe. But of course, there were the stories she'd tell, which she obviously made up. As the older the older she got, the worse she got. And she ended up actually having both legs amputated.
Oh, no.
Yeah, she was awfully ill. But she was always, she had stories and stories and stories. And everybody knew Louise Hampshire. She was related to Susan Hampshire, the actress,
Oh,
through
wow.
marriage. And she knew a lot of famous people. And she was well known in the 30s and 40s. Um, my grandmother was German, but she used to, I never knew it. She died 6 months before I was born. But apparently she used to do readings for the wives of soldiers who had been lost in the war. And she used to use the coal of the flames of a fire. The person would have to poke the fire, and she'd read the flames and the coal, the formation of the coal. Quite unusual, really.
Yeah, yeah. Well, this has been a great show, as usual, Billy. You are fabulous, and it's just fascinating, and we could talk forever. But we're going to say goodbye to our audience now, and tune in next week for
Yeah,
another episode of
absolutely.
Afterlife Radio. Bye bye, guys.
Thank you.